Quick, you have 3 seconds to name who this is. That is, of course, Max Scherzer of the Texas Rangers. Oh, wait, never mind. He got traded. Other than being a great pitcher and making a ton of money, you might notice that he has 2 different colored eyes. This is called Heterochromia Iridis, and it's a genetic mutation. What's a genetic mutation? I'm so glad you asked. Did you know that all cats are born with 2 blue eyes? You might think, but not all cats have blue eyes, so how does that work? Well, cats actually develop their eye color as they age. But what happens if this only happens in one eye, and the other stays blue? For today's story, we'll follow the life of a cat with Heterochromia Iridis. Let's call him Iris. Iris was born in a litter of 7 cats. He happened to be the smallest of the cats, but he was the smartest. Iris grew up as a runt of the litter, always last to eat, last to play, last to get his first car. What he wasn't last in was academics. In fact, Iris was so smart that he was a nerd at the school. Iris even got a 1600 on his SAT. Good for you, Iris. Unfortunately for Iris, he also got a lot of hate for his intelligence. Other cats were jealous of Iris because he was just smarter than everybody in school. He got bullied, although normally he just ignored it because he was just so dang smart. One thing the other cats went after were his eyes. Now, in my opinion, I like Iris's eyes. They're unique. I guess the other cats didn't think so. They rattled him with jokes. Odd eyes, half and half, two-face, the whole shebang. One time, someone even wore different colored contact in one eye, mocking Iris, pretending to be a nerd. Iris had it. He got so mad, he called the kid his worst insult. He went home storming towards his mom, crying. His mom asked him what's wrong, and he said some kid was making fun of his eyes. "Your eyes are beautiful," said his mom. You know, mom tries to comfort son. "Why am I different?" asked Iris. This stumped Iris's mom. She thought that it had something to do with genetic mutation. Now, when you think of a genetic mutation, you might think of something like this. Or this. But in reality, a mutation can look like this. Back to Iris's mom, she wanted to learn more, knowing that her poor baby was sad that he was different. So she went to the library to read up on how mutations work. Next day at school, Iris saw that his school was being expanded to add a science department. Wait a minute, Iris can ask his biology teacher why his eyes are different colors. Unfortunately for Iris, his biology teacher only spoke in terms that Iris didn't understand. He tried to read books at the actual library, but he wasn't able to understand them either. Makes you wonder why he got 1600 on his SAT. One night, Iris was watching his favorite baseball team play, and they showed a shot of the pitcher. It was Max Scherzer. Iris sprang up from the couch. Finally, someone he could relate to. He pointed towards the TV showing his mom. His mom looked at Max Scherzer. "Wow," she said, "that is cool." "Why does he have 2 different colored eyes?" asked Iris. His mom had been doing her homework. "It was a genetic mutation." "What's that?" Iris asked. "I'm so glad you asked," said his mom. I'm sure you know that every living thing is made up of cells. Inside the cell is a nucleus. Inside the nucleus is DNA. DNA in the nucleus in the cell. Basic stuff. Iris already knew that, so he told his mom to move on. Tyrosinase is a protein, something in your eye that gives it its color. It wasn't made. "Well, why not?" asked Iris. To understand why the tyrosinase protein wasn't made, you first need to understand how proteins are made. It's a 2-step program, transcription and translation. C comes before L in the alphabet. Because transcription has C in it, that's how to remember which comes first. In reality, transcription and translation are extremely complex processes that have millions of variables and niche assets. But Iris can't understand all of that. His mom decides to explain it in a way that Iris can understand. What's something else you build in real life? Buildings. That's what we will be comparing protein synthesis to. "What's protein synthesis?" asked Iris. "It's a fancy phrase for transcription and translation," said his mom. "Synthesis means to make." When you are building a building, there's a couple things that you need. You need materials. You need workers. You need a place to build. And most importantly, you need a plan or a blueprint to finish your building. When explaining this analogy, each of these things represents something, but more on that later. Actually, right now. What is DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid, said Iris. What does it do? Well, it's a blueprint for the organism to build itself. Iris, you just hit the nail on the head. In our analogy, the blueprint represents DNA, because that basically is what DNA is. Now, think about this for a second. It's way more efficient for a bunch of crews to work on separate parts of the building at a time, but they all need to know what they're doing. But that's what the blueprint's for, right? The only problem is what happens when multiple crews need the blueprint at once. Then there's a queue for the blueprint, and nobody wants to wait in line. This is the same problem with DNA. So many things are trying to access the DNA all at once that it can't keep up. So the DNA needs to make copies of itself so all the workers can have blueprints at once. How does it do that? Transcription. There's 4 steps to transcription, the first of which is actually just getting into the DNA. Pretty simple step 1. I'm sure you know by now that DNA is a double helix structure. It's like a book. One page is over here, and another is over here. Well, this side of the book contains the instructions, or the blueprint that we need. This is called a gene. But how do you get to it? This other page is in the way. Open up the book. Great idea, Iris. How do you do that exactly? Here comes a big word, helicase. It opens up the book by breaking these hydrogen bonds in the DNA, separating the two pages, like this. That's step 2, halfway there. Now we need to copy this page. How do we do that? Another big word, RNA polymerase. We know that each base in the DNA has a sister, or something that it can latch onto, and only that. For example, the base guanine can only snap onto cytosine, and none other. In any given gene, there can be thousands of bases. What the RNA polymerase does is shuffles between the bases until it finds one that fits. Once it does, it puts it on the DNA, moves on to the next base. Hey, look at that, it's making a copy. These are codons, like words. They code for what we want. That's step 3. Step 4 is disconnecting the RNA polymerase chain from the DNA and setting it off. It's now called mRNA, or messenger RNA, floating off into the cytoplasm. Iris wonders why you can't just send DNA into the cytoplasm, but his mom explains that the cell will attack it, thinking it's an invader, so mRNA is used instead. Finally, transcription's done. That's a lot of work just to pass out some copies of the blueprint, said Iris. Iris understands transcription now, but he's tired, so he decides to go to bed. His mom is proud of herself. Iris now knows how transcription works. What a great way to explain that. I wonder who came up with that. But there's still a lot more to explain. The next day, Iris goes into school gleaming. His bully calls him some mundane dumb name, but Iris doesn't care. Iris is excited to go home and learn more from his mom. During gym class, Iris was playing hockey. Normally, he was terrible. But today, he thought about how hitting a puck with a hockey stick was like helicase breaking the hydrogen bonds. I'm not sure how you come up with that, but Iris's mind works in strange ways. Iris raked up the competition. So much, in fact, he won MVP for the day. Suddenly, Iris was the coolest cat in school, and all because his mom explained transcription to him. Iris watched Max Scherzer highlights on the bus ride home. Just look at that curveball. Iris started to love his unique eyes more and more. When he got home, he begged his mom to explain the next part of protein synthesis to him. Well, alright, said Iris's mom. Translation is part 2 of protein synthesis. Remember that C comes before L. Since there's an L in translation, it comes second in the process. Back to our building analogy. Now, all of our workers have blueprints, or mRNAs, so they can actually build. The building sites represent ribosomes, because, remember, ribosomes are where proteins are synthesized. We all already know about mRNA and RNA polymerase, but there's another type of RNA, tRNA, which in our analogy represents the workers. When building a building, the workers carry the materials over to the building site. What are the materials of proteins? It's amino acids. The workers, or the tRNAs, carry the materials, or the amino acids, to ribosome. Now everything is ready to make proteins. How do they know how to make a protein? Buckle up, this is where it gets harder. The mRNA tells us what we need to know. Remember these bases from before? Well, they actually code for different amino acids. There's 20 amino acids, but only 4 bases. How does that work? They code in pairs of 3. These are called codons, or pairs of 3 bases. Different mRNA sequences code for different amino acids. These amino acid sequences are the proteins that are being made. Since there are 64 possible codon combinations, there's 64 different tRNAs, or transfer RNAs, and they latch onto these codons with their anticodons. Look, they fit. There's 3 special codon bases that tell the protein to stop making itself. After that, the protein breaks off the ribosome and goes to do what it needs to do. You can use a codon wheel to tell what amino acid the codon on the mRNA codes for. For example, GAU would be aspartic acid. That's really cool, said Iris. It is. It is quite the complex process with so many little quirks and niche accents. Fun fact, every single organism does transcription and translation. From you, to a tree, to the bacteria on your shoe, protein synthesis is a universal in life. To recap, we first need to give all the blueprints out to the workers. This is called transcription, where helicase unzips the DNA and RNA polymerase makes a copy of the DNA, called mRNA. After that, we distribute the mRNAs to different ribosomes. tRNAs, or transfer RNAs, deliver the amino acids to the ribosomes that latch onto the mRNA's codons with their anticodons, adding an amino acid to the chain based off of this codon wheel. Every amino acid chain starts with methionine, or AUG. It stops with the stop codon. So why do my eyes have different colors? Well, said Iris' mom, one of the base pairs in your DNA was wrong. It changed. That's a mutation, a change in DNA. Because one codon changed, an amino acid changed, and that messed up the entire protein. In your case, tyrosinase was messed up, causing it to be made incorrectly. One base change, called a point substitute missense mutation, because just one nucleotide was substituted for something else. Mutations have two main ways of occurring. In your case, it was inherited by luck of the draw, from me and your father. Another way you can get a mutation is from something like cancer. If you stay out in the sun for too long, the UV rays can damage your DNA, causing a change in it. Amazing, said Iris. I can't wait to explain it to everybody. The next day, Iris went to school looking more confident than ever. His bullies tried to call him another mundane name like before, but Iris was a changed cat. No more was he going to put up with that. Do you know why I have different colored eyes? Asked Iris. No, responded the bully. That's because your brain is about the size of my left eye. Oh, whew, burn. People started gathering around Iris and the bully. Was a fight going to break out? No. Instead, Iris stood up in front of everybody and explained protein synthesis and why he was the way he was. Other cats looked at Iris in awe. Look at him. He's so smart. Suddenly, everybody felt like a genius. Iris was growing everybody's brain, bigger than his eye. Iris is now the coolest cat in school. He was so cool, people started wearing different colored contacts to be just like him, not to mock him. Iris was vibing. At the end of the day, Iris learned that knowledge is power. He learned to embrace himself, and most importantly, he learned about protein synthesis, and why he was the way he was. Good for Iris. Now you can apply these skills to your life, and maybe next time you won't fail Mr. P's bio quiz. Thanks for watching. Here's one more clip of Max Scherzer.
Swing and a miss. He gets a little breather in the dugout and comes out and strikes out the side.